Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's resume our approach to neurology examination here in the part 2. Let's continue the issue of hemiplegia with cranial nerves affection. That's what we mentioned before, just to revise. If there is hemiplegia in one side and there is facial nerve affection on the opposite side by the form of lower motor neuron lesion, this means there is brainstem affection, or what's called crossed hemiplegia. If there is hemiplegia in one side in the form of upper motor neuron lesion on the one side, and there is facial nerve affection of the same side of the lesion, and it is in the form of upper motor neuron lesion of the facial nerve, this means that there is internal capsule affection of the, definitely of the contralateral side of the body affection, but also in the brainstem of the contralateral side of the body affection. Let's go in details regarding the facial nerve anatomy, just simple diagram. Here, as we mentioned, this is the face, upper part of the face, lower part of the face. Any affection of the upper part of the face will be manifested as there is difficulty in raising eyebrow or inability to maintain clothing of the eye. And affection of the lower part of the face will be in the form of drop of the nose angle or loss of nasal fold or inability to maintain the blowing of the mouth by air. I'd like to here to let you know that here we have a right hemisphere, left hemisphere. There is this is the brainstem, but in a magnified manner. I mean, this is midbrain, this is bones, this is middle. We go to the midbrain to make it more magnified to put the facial nucleus inside, because as you know, that midbrain is 3 and 4 cranial nerve. Bones is mainly located in the nuclei of 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th cranial. Okay, the trigeminal, the abducent, the facial, and the vestibulo-ocular nerve, the 8th. Okay, so and in the medulla, there is the remaining 4 cranial nerves, which are the 10, 9, and 10, 11, and 12. So we can remember it by doing this. And if this midbrain, bones, and medulla, here located the 3 oculomotor and the trochlear nerve. Simply like this. Definitely there is right side and also there is left side if I take in one side of the midbrain. And here the bones, there is nuclei of the 5th cranial, which is called trigeminal, 5th and 6th abducent, and the facial nerve, 7th, and there is a vestibulo-ocular nerve, 8th, something like this. And in the medulla, there is the 9 cranial nerve, the gross pharyngeal, and the 10, the vagus, and the 11th, which is called accessory, and the lastly the 12 for the hypoglossal of the okay, and the same also for the other side of the brainstem, also midbrain, bones, and medulla. Okay, so usually in the midbrain we make a highlight on the 3, the third one, and in the bones the 7th, the facial, and in the hypoglossal the medulla, the hypoglossal nerve. Okay. Then coming to each facial nuclei in one side of the midbrain, it is divided into 2 parts: upper part of the facial nerve and the lower, upper part of the facial nucleus and the lower part of the facial. The upper part of the facial nucleus is responsible for the voice. The upper part of the facial nucleus, it is responsible for innervation of the upper part of the face, while the lower part of the facial nucleus is responsible for the innervation of the lower part of the face, definitely for the same ipsilateral side of the brainstem and face. Okay, this is number 1. The second information is the here is the upper part of the facial nerve innervating the upper part. As I told you, the lower part is innervating the lower part of the face. The upper part of the facial nucleus, it has a double innervation, double neurological innervation from the cortex to the nucleus of the facial nerve, while the lower part of the facial nucleus is only innervated by the contralateral side of the brain. Okay, this is the most important information. So here you can reach to the idea of the upper part of the facial nucleus has double innervation, which is responsible for the upper part of the, while the lower part of the facial nucleus is only innervated by one side, and this one side is a contralateral. Okay, let's assuming a scenario here. We have a let me also to remind you about what's called upper motor neuron lesion of the facial and lower motor neuron lesion of the facial. It means that any affection above the level of the nucleus, it's above the level of the nucleus of the facial nerve, it's called upper motor neuron lesion. Any lesion affecting the nucleus itself or down below is called lower motor neuron lesion. I mean, if I have affection here in the facial nucleus, the face will be affected as a lower motor neuron lesion. If there is any lesion in the tract of the facial nerve after arising from the facial nucleus, going through the intracranial part and going to the here at the site of parotid, then go to the facial muscle, any affection of this pathway will lead to a facial nerve affection in the form of lower motor neuron lesion. Like patient, the most common cause is the Bell's palsy, so it affects the whole part of the face. Okay, while any affection above the level of the facial nucleus, here in the even in the midbrain or above the level of the internal capsule of the or in the cortical area, this will lead to an upper motor neuron lesion of the facial. So here, let's do a expectation. We have a lesion here. This is in the internal capsule of the lower of the left side of the left internal capsule lesion here. So what will you expect now? That there is an denervation of both upper part of the facial nucleus and the lower part of the facial nucleus. So you expect that both facial part will be affected. But here, the upper part of the facial nucleus is still having another supply from the same side of the cortex. So here, the lesion will be only affecting in the lower part of the face. Okay, so that's why the face will be like this. The lower part of the face only affected, so patient cannot smile, cannot do flowing. There is loss of the nasolabial fold. Okay, this is called right facial affection in the form of upper motor neuron lesion of the right facial. Okay, so the face will be like this. The only lower part is affected due to this lesion. What about if there is a lesion here? I mean, below the level of the nucleus. From the nucleus downward, it will lead to lower motor neuron lesion of the facial nerve. So all the face will be affected in this side. So it will lead to the lower motor neuron lesion in the right side. Okay. So that is in summary. If you have a patient with only lower part of the face affected, this is called upper motor neuron lesion of the patient due to upper motor neuron lesion above the level of the facial nucleus. And if you have all the part of the face is affected, there is drop of the eyebrow. You cannot elevate. You can see the difference here. You cannot do closure well of the eye and against the resistance. The drop of the angle of the mouth is inside. So all the right side of the face is affected. This is called a right facial nerve palsy in the form of lower motor neuron facial. So you can see here if pyramidal tract is affection here in this side. Okay, so this will lead to a facial nerve affection. On the opposite side, in the form of lower motor neuron lesion. Okay, in this place. Okay, let's go to the differential diagnosis of hemiplegia. I mean, what is the differential diagnosis of causes of hemiplegia? What is the cause of hemiplegia, and what is the lesions or site of lesion in the hemiplegia? Cause of hemiplegia mostly due to maybe due to a vascular cause, especially the stroke, or maybe as a demyelinating disease like multiple sclerosis, or space-occupying lesion like axis of tumor, or maybe infection like any space-occupying lesion or axis. In vascular causes, you have either there's ischemic causes or thrombotic or embolic or hemorrhagic or vasculitic. Ischemic causes like atherosclerosis, thrombotic like any hypercoagulable state, especially in the patient disease, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, antiphospholipid syndrome. Embolic causes in the cardiac affection, especially in the atrial fibrillation or beta form valve, like atrial septal defect. Hemorrhagic causes like patient has any bleeding tendency, like bone Brown disease, hereditary hemorrhagic telangiectasia. There is malformation, bleeding tendency, hemophilia of A, for example, hemophilia A. Subarachnoid hemorrhage in cases of autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, which is a common complication, effective endocarditis and mycotic risk, AV malformation, trauma. All these can lead to hemorrhagic causes, vasculitis for any cause of vasculitis like SLE, etc. Another differential is related to the location of the lesion. As we mentioned before, is the lesion in the cortical area or in the internal capsules called capsule, or in the brain stem or the spinal cord above the level of C5. It's called the Brown sequence syndrome of any section of the spinal cord. But what about causes of hemiplegia, especially in young age? There is a specific highlighting issue regarding hemiplegia in the young age. It could be carried the same, but usually we need to highlight some issues, especially the vascular causes. If this patient has a hypercoagulable state, for example, or in embolic causes, especially in the young age, like cardiac source of embolization in patient atrial fibrillation, beta form valve, like atrial septal defect. If this patient young age and has polycystic kidney disease, liable for bleeding, and there is cerebellar aneurysm, effective endocarditis and mycotic aneurysm, especially in young and using intravenous drug abuse like this. Vasculitis, which is more common, especially in the young age. Okay. The other cause like MS, demyelinating, especially in the young patient, drug abuse, trauma or carotid artery dissection, and any specific lesion like PACES or anything like this. Okay. Let's go now after we know that we are facing a case of hemiplegia. What will be the investigations that you need to request for a patient with hemiplegia? Firstly, we need to do a brain image. So we need to do brain CT, and this is recommended to be done within the 25 minutes of arrival to emergency department to exclude any hemorrhagic stroke, as we mentioned before. And this patient, if has ischemic stroke, normal CT brain, and excluding hemorrhagic cause, and there is no absolute or relative contraindication to using thrombolytic therapy, this patient will be a candidate for TPA, tissue plasminogen activator, or thrombolytic therapy, if there is within 5.4 hours of the onset of the weakness. We can consider MRI if later on, or if we are suspecting posterior fossa lesion or brainstem lesion or MS, because the MRI has high sensitivity and specificity for the posterior fossa and also for the brainstem, high sensitivity rather than the CT and the MS to detect the demyelinating scatter plaques. We can use enhanced CT, like CT with contrast, especially CT venography, if we are suspecting cerebral venous thrombosis. As we mentioned before, in cases of hypercoagulable state, antiphospholipid syndrome, like this, or patient has a thrombophilia, we need to rule out cerebral venous thrombosis, especially the patient has headache with increased intracranial pressure, morning headache, edema, like this. So consider female using contraceptive hormonal pills, like this. So to rule out by CT venography or MR venography. Also CT angiography or MRA if you are suspecting subarachnoid hemorrhage or the arteriovenous networks. This is regarding the brain or spinal cord image. Then go to the peripheral lab. We are putting the priority for image due to the this very important window gap for any skin. Lab, we can do laboratory investigation routine, CBC to check hemoglobin level, platelet count, rule out any thrombocytopenia for bleeding, white blood cells for infection, abscess like this, kidney and electrolyte, urea and electrolyte, okay, random blood sugar to rule out any diabetes, glycemic control of the patient by hemoglobin A1C, lipid profile definitely to exclude hyperlipidemia, hypercholesterolemia, hyperlipidemia, INR to check the bleeding tendency, and also if this patient is known to have atrial fibrillation, we need to give him anticoagulation. If we would like to give him warfarin, we need to know what is the level of INR, and follow exam we will give the vitamin anticoagulation like this. Okay, and if you will know, if we will use the DUAC or NOAC, novel oral anticoagulant or direct oral anticoagulant, there is no need for measuring the INR, especially the new forms, which is apixaban and rivaroxaban and dabigatran. Okay, PSR as a clue or a marker of autoimmune or vascular disease. We can do thrombophilia screen, especially in young age, and we suspect the venous thrombosis. And lastly, it's very important, the cardiovascular cause, as we mentioned before. We need to do the ECG or monitoring Holter ECG and echocardiography to check the cardiac chambers, any intracardiac neural thrombus, etc. And definitely the bilateral carotid duplex ultrasound to rule out any atherosclerotic plaque or any carotid artery stenosis that might need surgical intervention later on. This is regarding the investigations for case of hemiplegia. Just I'm trying to collect all possible investigations in one slide. Then let's go further to the management of a case of hemiplegia. Okay, this is very important also. Definitely, we will start by as an stepwise approach for who will do the management of hemiplegia. This is a multidisciplinary team who will admit this patient in a stroke unit and give this patient firstly the supportive treatment and to if this patient has need to do a bladder care or there is any retention to insert a catheter or bowel care, if there is constipation or sphincter abnormality or like this, and also the bed care regarding the venous thromboembolisation prophylaxis, change the position of the patient like this, and also the feeding of the patient, and use what's called SALT. It's a speech and language therapist, speech and language therapist, and physiotherapy. Okay. Definitely according to the stage. If you are in acute stage, no need. If you are in acute stage, you need to do physiotherapy. If you are chronic stage, you need to do physiotherapy. You can adjust this according to the stage of the disease. Then put in your mind the window phase is very important. Regarding the thrombolytic therapy, it is indicated, especially in the window gap within the 4.5 hours from the onset of the weakness, and check the absolute and relative contraindication. And also if there is a need of intervention like thrombectomy by intervention radiology, indicated within 6 hours. If you are outside the window period, so the thrombolytic therapy is of no value at that time, and you will need to provide the patient with antiplatelet therapy in the form of aspirin, 300 milligrams oral to be started immediately and for 14 days. Then shift to clopidogrel 75 milligram daily. And note that if you start already the TBA, so it is preferable to not start aspirin immediately, make a gap to be more than 24 hours after the TBA and less than 48 hours after the stroke. So you are in between 24 hours and 48 hours after receiving the thrombolytic therapy. After that, we go to the treatment of the cause and the correction of any risk factors for this patient. If the patient has cardiac cause corrected, if the patient has hemiplegia, if the patient has bleeding tendency, if the patient has vasculitis, etc. So treatment of the cause is very important. If you suspect that a case has a thrombolytic if the patient has a cerebral venous thrombosis, you need to give him anticoagulation from the start. Okay, and if the patient doing ECG and there is atrial fibrillation, you will check what is the onset of this atrial fibrillation. If it is chronic, you will continue the anticoagulation and assess the bleeding risk regarding the infarction size. But if this patient is new onset atrial fibrillation, so you will use the rate control and aspirin only and wait for anticoagulation after 2 weeks. Then lastly, the surgical treatment of the hemiplegia. We can review the patient with the neurosurgeon in case of decompression craniotomy and vascular surgery for carotid endarterectomy. This is the all methods of management in hemiplegia. The supportive treatment is very important. We need to mention firstly regarding, as I mentioned, the bladder care for catheterization like this, bowel care for constipation, bed care regarding the bed sores and the prevention and the changes of the patient. The AA is abbreviation of the airway. If the patient is taking breathing or need any respiratory support like this, and if it's a feeding of the patient, if this patient will receive feeding like oral, or you will need to be cautious regarding aspiration, so you insert MGT, or this patient has old stroke and in a bad general condition, you might think about insertion of big tube. Okay. We can go to the end of the discussion. Lastly, just to highlight the anticoagulation in case of atrial fibrillation or intraneural thrombus. Usually, it's preferable to be used after 2 weeks from the event of the ischemic stroke, because it may lead to increase the size or transformation of this stroke to have a hemorrhagic transformation of the stroke. This is my last slide of this case. I hope that hemiplegia is a simple way. Try to collect it to make it easy for you. And if you have any comments, suggestion, adding anything, you are welcome to add whatever you want. So, do you have any concern, any question?